Welcome to another surprise episode of Paranormal the Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, here trying to make the world seem a little more normal. Will we accomplish that tonight? Maybe. But I mean, with who I'm talking to, that might be possible, actually, so we'll see. And of course, my guest tonight is Jason Hassler, who is the director for Portland's Big River Paranormal, and also has his own podcast, Hasslin the Paranormal, which I love the name playing that, I will say. But welcome, Jason. How's it going tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Glad to hear it. So, the first question I ask everybody in this show is, what got you into the paranormal?
Well, I had some experiences as a young child. We lived in a house that was, people say it was haunted, and there was some activity there, so it just kind of piqued my interest as a child. And I've pretty much held on to that ever since.
Interesting. And I'm actually happy you said it that way, because that kind of brings me to my next question. What experiences have you had in the paranormal? And I know that's probably a long list for you being an investigator.
Yeah.
But let's start off with just some of the experiences when you were younger that got you into it.
Yeah, there was in the house that we lived in, I was probably, I would say 7 to 10-ish when we lived there. Always, kids always see something in their closet and that kind of thing. There was always a man in the closet, which is weird because my brother and I, our closets were, they were touching from our rooms. They were up against each other. And as adults, we talked about it, and we saw the same kind of stuff going on in that closet. So it was kind of, interesting that we both saw the same thing but didn't talk about it. So, and then there was always there was a guy we could hear coughing in the bathroom quite often. And then I do believe my uncle who lived there before, or who was there before, he got locked in that closet. He went in there to change a light bulb or something in the closet, and the door shut, and he couldn't get out for a while.
Oh.
So that's not fun.
And were the closets built with locks on them or no?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% on that, but it could be. I mean, I imagine so if he got locked in, but maybe it was somebody holding him in. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
yeah.
was the spirit like forcing the door shut or something?
Yeah, that could be. I don't know.
I've heard stranger things, but
yeah, for sure.
So, all right, yeah. I mean, I actually was one of those lucky people who didn't grow up in a haunted house. So I always thought there was something in my closet as a kid, but there never was any proof of anything in the closet. So just one of those things. But
it could have been under the bed. Yeah.
Could have been. I mean, I honestly didn't experience anything paranormal until I was in my 20s. So
wow.
I just grew up with a fascination for it because of books that I read in the library about Bigfoot and aliens and Loch Ness and all that. So
yeah,
the basic beginner set in the 90s for kids who want to get into paranormal in the future. But okay, well, so you run a paranormal investigation team.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so our name is Big River Paranormal, and we're on the Portland area, Oregon mostly. We are the Oregon TAPS family team. Do you know what the TAPS family is?
I know what TAPS is. If you ask me what it stands for, I couldn't tell you, but I know I've heard of TAPS. I've had TAPS members on my show before.
Yeah, it's the Atlantic Paranormal Society. So what that is in 1990, that was created by Jason Hawes, Grant Wilson from the Ghost Hunters TV show, which I don't believe that aired till like 2004. But when that started, they started getting help requests from all over, and it was just too much for them to do just themselves. So TAPS Family is a network of paranormal teams all over the world, really, and that say, so if TAPS receives a report in the Oregon area, I'm the guy that gets that report, and I reach out to the client for help on that one.
Oh, so, nice. It's kind of like Ghostbusters International.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And Anthony, thank you for watching. Can't wait to have you on next month, buddy. I don't know if you know Anthony. He's from the Texas Wraith Hunters.
No.
Another paranormal investigative team.
Hello, Anthony.
But so. What are some of the most interesting cases that you've faced working with Big River?
Well, we get a lot of a lot of different stuff, from as simple as, hey, this is what my Ring doorbell picked up on our video, which is usually insects or just dust or whatever. And then we get people that watch too much paranormal TV, that kind of stuff. And so mostly what we try to do is go in and help people figure out a logical explanation for what it is they got going on. And sometimes we can do that. Well, most of the time we can do that, actually. But sometimes we can't. And other times we find stuff that makes us believe that their home could be haunted or paranormal. Or we get all sorts of crazy calls. I got the oddest call that I got, or the email I got, was a lady that said she was having a physical relationship with a spirit. So I called her.
Yes.
Yeah, I called her and I asked her, can you explain to me what's going on? And and she said she was having a physical relationship with a spirit, and I didn't know what really to ask. I mean, there's a lot of questions there. So my first question was, is it consensual? And she said, well, it wasn't at first. And so I was like, okay, can you explain? She said, well, it started when she was in prison. And I was like, oh, here we go. So she said that she met this spirit in prison, and they started their relationship, and her boyfriend passed away. And she said, well, my boyfriend passed away. I believe he gave the spirit permission, so then it was okay with me. So I had to explain to her exactly what it is that we do. So I wasn't going to come out and try to videotape her or record her in relations with a spirit. I mean, if I thought she really was, then possibly. But clearly, it was more of a mental health issue than anything. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if people can have those kind of relations with the spirit, but I haven't, and I don't think I want to. But that was probably the weirdest one I've gotten.
I had a guest on my show months ago, Johnny G. He's a former porn star, and he is now all into spectrophilia, which is the act of having relations with spirits.
Yeah.
And according to him, it's a very real thing that people can do, and he's done it, and he's helped people do it. And I mean, it's just, I have it. There's a whole episode I have on it, and it's just I don't even know how to describe it. It's just something out of like a romance novel, like a paranormal romance novel almost. But
it's a very interesting topic, for sure. I mean, it certainly would open up your options if you could pick from the dead as well.
It would. I mean, a lot less risk with that as well. But I mean, it's just
weird. Yeah, what kind of protection would you need for that?
maybe a crucifix. But that's about it. I would think. But
the Trojan crucifix. Yeah, they'll start making those for us.
I mean, it honestly was one of the most bizarre episodes I ever did, but it's also my highest watched episode on YouTube, so that tells you something.
Yeah, people are interested in for sure.
Sex sells.
Yes, it
does. I mean, so did you do any kind of investigation into that, or did you kind of
I didn't.
There's nothing you could do?
I asked her. She was staying in she had just gotten out of prison, so she said she was staying in a homeless shelter. So there really wasn't much I could do to help her. I did refer her to, because she mostly just wanted to know if what was going on with her was normal, which I wouldn't think so, but maybe it is after talking to you. but I referred her to talk to her mental health counselor, as well as maybe a local psychic that she could find, and just, maybe somebody that has dealt with that kind of stuff before. I haven't. That's a whole new realm of possibility for me, and I don't think I want to go down that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting topic, but it's just something, I mean, to investigate a homeless shelter, you would have to get the permission of the homeless shelter, which would be a whole other ordeal. And
just not happening. And it just wasn't a safe situation for her or my team, really. So
yeah, I mean, a psychic was a good recommendation, though. I didn't even think of that. That's a good recommendation, because they can tell if something else is going on in the background there or not.
Yes, because
they can sense more into it than you or I could.
Yeah, one of the things that I try to keep in mind when dealing with clients with apparent possible mental health issues is one, I'm not a mental health professional, so I don't know for sure. And two, just because they are in mental health crisis doesn't mean they don't have something spiritual going on.
True. I mean, people have literally gone crazy because of paranormal entities in their house that make them
Yeah.
go insane. So it's highly possible. I mean, it can go both ways, but it's a it's a very it's one of those topics that you kind of want to like stay away from unless you have to be involved in it because it's a
Yeah,
gray area. Because you could either help or hinder with that depending on what the situation is. But
for sure. Yeah, and one of the things too is, when you're trying to deal with that kind of stuff, you have to have them be honest with you. So one of the questions we ask is about drug use, and if they're not honest with it, they're not, but some of them are. But if they're using drugs, you have if you're on drugs, you're an addict, you have a warped sense of what reality could be. And a lot of people believe that spirits, especially ones that may be negative, can take advantage of you because you don't realize you're not supposed to be able to see them or have contact with them, that kind of stuff normally. So when people are addicts and addicted to drugs, I believe some people believe, I believe as well, that they open themselves up more to having issues with that.
it's funny you say that because I had a guest a week or two ago who was a astrophysicist, and we were talking about UFOs, aliens, and all that.
Yeah.
And his belief is that he's a very Christian man, but his beliefs are that the reason people get abducted by UFOs is because they open themselves up to the occult through either heavy metal music, Ouija boards. I mean, pick your thing that supposedly is a cult. But
That's an interesting take. I don't necessarily think I'd agree with that, but we all have our opinions.
I can't say I necessarily agree with it either, but I was respectful as possible because I don't want to upset a guest. But it's just one of those things where it's like,
Right.
I mean, I listen to Iron Maiden, and I don't think I'm going to get abducted by UFOs because of that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
One of
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah, and I mean, children get abducted by aliens supposedly, and I may have my own story, but they just it's I can't imagine. I mean, the alien abduction stuff. I've actually been watching a lot of that on TV recently, just because of the recent supposed unidentified objects that we've been shooting down and stuff. So it's just kind of something that's been interesting. But that could be mental health stuff as well, or there could be a number of people could actually be getting probed by aliens, that kind of stuff. But who knows? I don't think I'm expert enough to know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody is really an expert unless they are an alien. Like
Yeah,
maybe then they could tell us why they're doing it, but then again, do you really trust what they're telling you to begin with? I mean,
right.
it's just one of those things. I mean, I do love. I mean, I don't know. I do love the, and you're right because kids are abducted by aliens all the time. My wife grew up being supposedly abducted by aliens because she would disappear from her bedroom that she shared with her sister all the time, and
Yeah,
her sister would look around the house for her for hours and say like next morning like you were gone for hours. Where'd you go? And she
yeah,
was too she was too young at that point to just disappear all of a sudden.
yeah. I had a incident when I was younger that when I was probably, it was in that same house. I was probably like 7 or 8, where I was laying in bed and I saw a bright light out the window, and so I got up to look, and I see a UFO flying, and I thought at first, because we lived by this military base at the time, and so I thought maybe it was like sometimes they'd run like helicopter stuff and practice and that kind of stuff at night, and I thought that's what it was until I realized that it wasn't. It was this weird UFO shaped thing, and it landed in our field, and we have these 3 old buildings out in the field there, and it landed on the middle one. I don't know why it would land. I mean, we had a huge field. Why would it land on the building? I don't know. This is what I remember. And then the next thing I remember is it's leaving, and I'm yelling to my parents that I saw a UFO, and they're like, "Bad dream, go back to sleep, shut up," type of thing. And so at that point, when we got up the next morning, the building that I said that it landed on was crushed. So who knows what happens to me as a child? So
That's interesting, and the
yeah,
fact
we
that the
don't.
building was crushed, like that kind of is proof
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, and I don't, like it's not something that my family really talked about much growing up because obviously I was a child. They didn't want to be like like what happened to you because. But I have talked to a friend of mine that does hypnosis about maybe trying to do that and see if I can remember more things from that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't think personally. I mean, but again, that's at your discretion because it's
Yeah, I don't
your
know if
life.
I want to know half the time. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
I get that. I get that
yeah.
100%. I mean,
But
I
then
can't say
again,
I've ever.
how would you not want to know at the same time though? It could bring back really bad memories and nightmares and stuff.
Oh, it could. I mean, it could change your life for a while. But I mean, I don't know. I honestly couldn't fathom what I would do in that situation if I wasn't sure what happened. I mean, part of me says I definitely would find out, but then there's always that little voice that's like, "Do you want to know? Do you really want to
Right?
know?"
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. But so, what is your? I mean, you have a paranormal
Uh-huh.
you have a paranormal podcast. So, what is your belief in aliens? Like,
For me, it would be ridiculous to believe that the aliens don't exist. I mean, there's so much out there that we don't even understand, and there's so much space out there, and so many planets that seeing now that are very Earth-like. That it would be ignorant to believe that we're the only ones with life-sustaining planet.
I agree with that 100%. I have agreed with that for a long time. What do you think about the idea of these star seeds, though? Because I've had a few of them on my show, and I
What's that?
mean, star
This
seeds.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with that one.
Star seeds are people who believe that they are alien spirits in a human body, and that they basically believe that they were alien spirits that are sent out. They believe certain races of aliens, like Palladians, I believe it is, or Euclideans. There's a bunch of them. I can never remember the names, but
Yeah,
it's not your typical three of Greys, reptilians, or Norse. It's different ones,
interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard of
and
that one yet, but
they believe that they are alien spirits. Basically, they're sent down to Earth to try to learn, and then when that person dies, the spirit goes back to their planet, and either they're sent down to Earth again, or uh, they get to go somewhere special after that point because they achieve their goal or they achieve max enlightenment.
I mean, it's similar to what a lot of people believe with reincarnation, I guess.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of where it went for me is because like a lot of mediums and psychics have told me that's what reincarnation is
Yeah.
it's basically a waiting room and our spirits go there when we pass and either we go back down to earth or to try to achieve more in life, achieve our goals, or we get
Yeah.
to go on to some special place, heaven or whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. But if if you listen to the episodes I had with Star Seeds, they actually are pretty convincing that it's real. Like they fully believe it. I've seen things on Facebook about like how to tell if you're a star seed, like 8 or 9 checklists, like point checklists that you can do. Like basically, the main thing they say is if you feel like Earth is not your home, like if you feel like you don't belong here, you feel like you belong somewhere else, but there's nowhere on Earth you feel like you belong really. Like then that
Huh.
is a major sign of it, which I guess it's possible. Like I guess it's 100% possible in my mind that that could be real, especially if aliens have been visiting Earth for millennia. Then
Yeah.
it's 100% possible that who knows? I mean, I've heard stranger things in this world, like spectrophilia, and I can
Yeah.
believe in star seeds more than I could believe in spectrophilia because, well, for spectrophilia, I just think of Scary Movie 2. But, but I mean,
Yeah.
other than that, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I mean, but then again, I've I've never seen a gray. I've never seen a reptilian. I've never seen a Norse. Well, I've never seen a Norse. I don't think. But I mean, but I still believe in those fully. Like all three of those, I believe in because there's enough stories of them out there that make you want to believe.
Yeah. It's odd that like so many people that have abduction stories have very similar stories, even though it's not something they did never met, they never talked, and everybody's got a similar kind of story. But then all the movies came out like Fire in the Sky, Communion, that kind of stuff came out, and
Yeah,
so I think that kind of opened it up for a lot, and a lot of people maybe that opened it up to know that hey, I'm not the only one. that's happened to. So it made it more mainstream, I believe. So
Yeah, I mean, and like one of my favorite, I mean, X Files too, and one of my favorite examples is this show that was on TBS about 7, 8 years ago called People of Earth. It's
okay,
it's a really, it's about a gray, a reptilian, and a Norse that are working together out of a ship above Earth, and like they have goals they have to accomplish on Earth, and it's kind of a comedy, but it's interesting, like because
yeah,
people have hypothesized that the Greys work for the reptilians, and so some people say the Norse do too. But it's just it's to me it's fascinating thinking of the dynamics that it could be.
yeah.
But what
Recently,
do you?
what's
Uh,
that? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what do you think about the recent UFOs getting shot down supposedly?
Um, I have two theories on that. One is that it's a diversion, that they're wanting us to look at that while they're doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've also heard, a lot of these UFOs and stuff are going over nuclear weapons facilities or going near them. So I do know that a lot of stories about UFOs from the military are from nuclear weapon sites, facilities, and that kind of stuff. So, and I've also heard they've controlled or shut down the sites and that kind of stuff as well. So maybe they're warning us, hey, don't do that, or just checking out to see what it is our capabilities that we do have, or I don't know what they're doing, but they definitely wanted to make it known that they know that that's the kind of weaponry we're working with, I guess. Whether they want us to use it or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's the government. They know they admitted UFOs existed finally during COVID of all times because they knew no one would pay attention to that fact.
Yeah, they're
But
like, it's not aliens, but we don't know what it is. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, a lot of them didn't even say it wasn't aliens. They just said we don't know what it
yeah,
is. But
yeah.
I mean, I look at the stories of like Roswell, of the alien autopsy video that came out in the '90s,
Yeah.
which I actually had a guest that has been researching that and speaks to it. I think
Well,
his episode. I think his episode is dropping today. I think his episode dropped today. Actually, I haven't had a chance to share my episode out today because it just
it's
hasn't.
interesting.
I haven't had time
Yeah.
yet today. But it's and I mean, and also I look at like Valiant Thor, like in other Barney and Betty Hill, and like all these
Mhm.
examples of very famous UFO cases, alien cases, where it's like they kind of have to exist because all these things are pretty much solid proof of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I had a guest on, James Clarkson. He's local to the Northwest. He was in Aberdeen, Washington, and he was a detective and police officer and stuff. And he was in his professional life, and now that he's after that he became a UFO investigator. He was with MoveOn for a while, but he was talking about a case where a UFO had crashed in that area up in like the Aberdeen, Washington area back in, I want to say it was 1979 if I believe, but he did some research on that and was talking about all the different like the military was there, they wouldn't let you in, but it was, don't worry, there's nothing going on, but you just can't come in type of thing. And then they were just gone, type of thing. So
well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean the whole Men in Black thing, it's or as they're called now, the khaki men. But I don't know if you heard about that, but apparently now they dress like suburban dads, so they're not because you see a guy in a black suit nowadays, you're gonna think Men in Black, but
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. I mean, it's the whole thing like where you see like all of a sudden like on a wooded access road on the side of a highway, you'll see like 20 cop cars, government cars, and you're like, why? There's no accident near here, and
Yeah.
it's like. And you look in the paper the next day, and there's nothing about somebody getting like lost in the woods or anything. So, is there a Bigfoot in the area, and they're just trying to kind of get it out of the area? Like who could tell? It's just strange.
I
Hello,
often
Steven. Thank you for watching.
often wonder what exactly is the reasoning. I mean, if the government knows that there's people on other planets or life on other planets, what's the point in keeping that from us? Is I don't understand. I mean, there might be some hysteria and panic a little bit, but as long as they're not like actively trying to kill us, I don't think that it should, be that big I believe most people would be like, well, yeah, we knew. Most people believe that anyway, I would think. So at this point, I mean, maybe back in the 40s and 50s when like the Roswell stuff was happening, maybe back then it was a good idea to kind of keep it under wraps. But right now, like most of us believe in UFOs and aliens and Bigfoot and that kind. Well, I don't know about Bigfoot. I mean, some people believe in Bigfoot. I'm not sold on that one yet. I haven't had an experience myself, but I'm open to the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just there's theory. I have theories, and I mean, my famous thing I say now is, yeah, the next pandemic they're going to announce that Bigfoot's real.
Yeah, like hopefully there won't
I
be another pandemic, but we know there will be. So
I mean, yeah, especially with this train crash that's raining
yeah,
horrible stuff all over the Midwest. So who knows? But
I
I was
will.
on a. I'm
What's
sorry. Go
that?
ahead.
I will say, out of like all of the paranormal people, to get whether they're ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot, the Bigfoot people, and this is no slight on them at all, they speak as though like what they're saying is absolute fact. Whereas like aliens and mostly ghost people that I know, we talk about things in theory. This is what we experience, this is what we can explain. But Bigfoot people are like, there's a big hairy man in the woods, and if like, that's just the way it is. They don't. There is no if to them. But so I think that's kind of interesting for the Bigfoot people. Why are they so confident?
I think it's because there's more evidence out there of Bigfoot. Personally, I mean, yes, a lot of the evidence. There's plenty of hoaxes that people
For sure, yeah.
have tried to implement, and there's plenty of evidence out there though that I find undeniable. It can't be a suit. It looks way too realistic to be a suit. And if you ask graphic design, if you ask like people who make those suits professionally, even they'll say we don't have technology yet to make a suit like that, where the
Yeah.
muscles move the way they do, where the body's defined the way it is. I mean, Bigfoot suits nowadays still basically look like gorilla suits that are brown, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I don't know. It's just in the footprints I can never get over because there's so many of them, and
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's just who knows. It's what do you think of the Patterson Gimlin film?
I've looked at it quite a bit, and not being an expert in the field, but I would say because it's been around so long and there's been no absolute proof against it, which is way easier to do than proving something is fake is probably way easier than proving it's real. And nobody's actually thrown out absolute proof that it was hoaxed. That doesn't mean that it wasn't. I'm just saying that for me, I think I tend to believe that they may actually have caught a Bigfoot on video.
And the funny thing is because I've heard interviews with 3 out of 4 of the people that were there that day,
Yeah.
and they said they were actually Patterson was going up there to film a hoax video originally. Like they had a gorilla suit that someone bought, but
Yeah. I don't know if I've heard that story, but yeah.
they caught the footage when they were trying to set that up.
Huh.
So I mean,
Did somebody hoax them? I don't know.
I see, but I mean, Patty, they call her the Bigfoot that was caught on film
Yeah.
that day because I mean, you could clearly tell it's a female. My
Yeah.
podcast, Global Strangers, I'm on with my 2 co-hosts. We actually just did a Bigfoot episode this past Sunday, and we watched the video. And I think it was an interview with one of the guys that was there. I'm not sure which one because they didn't say his name, and I don't recognize them by face. And like, you could clearly see the muscles in the chest and the muscles in the arm moving, and
Yeah.
it's just like you can't fake that, especially back then.
And the fact that you clearly had breasts. It wasn't like a male figure. It was definitely a female breast. You could see that.
I mean, and you could see its feet when it's in the beginning of the video. You could see its feet, and it's not a human wearing shoes, like with a suit over it, or it's not like a bare human foot. It looks like a primate foot. So
it's certainly interesting. That's for sure. I don't, being that it's been around for so long and nobody's disproved it, then I think they might have something there. Smarter people than me have not been able to disprove it. So,
I mean, and a couple of people that are involved, like, did say, "Oh, it's a hoax," like over the years, but then they would on their deathbeds they rescinded that because there was it was just too much pressure from the media. I didn't want to deal with it anymore, so I just said that to get them off my back. But
yeah, I can imagine.
I'm sure. I mean, if you're the first person to actually catch a Bigfoot on film, then yeah, you're going to be pounded by
Yeah,
everybody.
whatever you were before is it doesn't matter. You're now the Bigfoot guy, so you're going to be
Yeah.
doing books and shows and everything for the rest of your life, which is good
Well,
and bad.
well, it's like what's his name? I want to say Travis Walters, the guy from
Oh, Travis Walton, yeah, from
Travis Walton. Yeah,
yeah,
Fire in the
Fire in the
Sky.
Sky. Yeah,
I mean, from what I hear, he won't even do podcast interviews unless you either know a friend of his who was willing to talk him into it, or unless you
yeah,
pay him.
I've heard that
Like
too.
it's just he doesn't want to deal with it anymore because he dealt with it for so long since the '90s since that movie came out. But
Yeah,
I don't know. It's you get famous for something like that, and then you're never gonna not be famous. It's just
yeah, like he was a logger before, but now he's just the alien guy, the guy that got abducted by aliens. So for the rest of his life, he was the guy that got abducted by aliens. But the
exactly.
movie's interesting.
I actually have not seen the movie. I keep meaning to watch it, but I have some subscription stuff coming up for this show that I'm gonna start doing, and movie watch along / movie reviews might be part of it. So
Oh, nice.
more details to come soon, listeners. But I'm still working out all the kinks of that one, and lining up guests for a lot of it is the fun part. But so we talked about have you? Oh, actually, let me ask this: have you guys ever investigated anything to do with aliens or Bigfoots in your time?
My team has done Bigfoot stuff, but not since I've joined. We've talked about going up into the woods and doing like a camping trip, or do some Bigfoot investigating a little bit while we're out there, but we haven't done it yet. But maybe the summer's coming, so maybe I'll hook something up with that because I mean, we're in the prime area to do that in the Pacific Northwest. So
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
if you can get access to the Olympic project, like you're guaranteed to see something because the Olympic project, I know Small Town Monsters went out there. I had Mark Matsky on my show talking about it, and they found undisputable proof of Bigfoot up there. I mean, yeah, if you watch their documentaries, you'll see the proof. But I know it was Nest, and he said they found more, but he didn't want to give too much away on a
yeah.
podcast. Of course, I don't blame him, but it's just interesting. What do you think about? Go to my favorite cryptid, dogmen.
I don't know enough to have an opinion on that. I mean, I see all the shows on it and all that kind of stuff, and I just haven't had the time to look into it and research it myself. So I don't really know. It's not something I've been
Well,
interested in yet.
I mean, what I'll say to that is there's a group out there called NADP, North American Dogmen
Hmm.
It's Patrol or something. I forget what the P stands for, but I really got to write that down. But I had one of their district heads, DA Roberts, on, who's the head of like the Northeast kind of,
Okay.
well, Central Northeast, I guess will be it. But if you want to get possibly the district, whoever runs the district over where you are on your show, that probably would be a good episode because I heard so much indisputable proof from him alone that I mean I was already a believer in them, but he just
Yeah.
made me be like, oh my God, like
Yeah. I always go in skeptical about every investigation, regardless of what it is. But yeah.
I mean, see, I'm one of those people who can't go in skeptical because I want to believe. Like
At least you
I'm,
know
I'm,
that about yourself, though. So you're like,
I,
you can check yourself a little bit sometimes.
I am the freaking I am the real life Fox Mulder when it comes to that because I want that. I literally would have that poster in the back of my freaking bedroom if my wife would let me.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just I I want to believe because the only things I could really ever be skeptical about are chupacabra and frogmen.
Yeah, I mean the chupacabra stuff is probably just mange on some dogs. So who knows?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say, but there was a woman who shot something and no one knows what it was, and the DNA test came back inconclusive that they never had anything like that put in the system
Yeah,
before.
that is interesting for sure.
So I don't know. I mean, in this world, anything is possible in my mind. I mean, between other dimensions, between space extraterrestrials. I mean, who knows? I mean, I've had people that say that everything comes from other dimensions. There's nothing comes from space. It's all from other dimensions. but I don't know what I believe. Really, it's just so hard to say. But
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
pe-
Go ahead.
people are trying to lump everything together, whether it be aliens, big. Some people believe that Bigfoot is an alien, comes from a different planet. Like maybe he does. I don't know why he likes to hang out in the Pacific Northwest, but he does apparently. Yeah,
Well, Bigfoot hangs out everywhere technically. I mean,
yeah,
the only state where there's never been a Bigfoot sighting is Hawaii, and I mean, and all over the world there's Bigfoot just under different names. I mean,
right. Yeah, it's. I've often wondered because like they're seeing the same thing all over. Everybody can't be wrong.
exactly. I mean that, and the fact that I mean on the NADP website for the Dogmen, like they originally had a map of the United States and Canada with different sightings all around the world. I mean,
Yeah,
all around those two countries, and even I always said, even if 90% of those are made up stories that are not real at all, what about the 10% that are? Because there's no way that all of them are made up. No
yeah.
way.
Well, then you got to go with the 5% of people with mistaken identity.
Yeah,
Whether
I
I
mean,
don't, yeah, I mean, like a lot of people see bears in the woods and think it's Bigfoot because they don't realize that, how tall bears really are when they're standing up on their back
well,
legs
yeah,
too.
we had we watched a video when we were doing Bigfoot of this couple hiking, and they caught a camera of something down the bush, like it looked like it was eating or looking for something, and and then right when it stands up, they turn around and run. It's like, come on, even if it's a
That's yeah,
uh,
yeah.
so
It's like all
disappointing.
the pictures of Bigfoot are blurry for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, see, that's when I kind of can lean on the Bigfoot being ultra terrestrial, which means interdimensional, or Bigfoot being extraterrestrial. That's when I can kind of lean on that because what if it is more advanced and it has the ability to kind of hide itself that way, like a Glimmer Man type thing almost, where it can make itself kind of turn invisible for a little bit here and there. Or if it is interdimensional, if it knows it's been seen or people are getting close to it, it pops back to its own dimension for a little while until it thinks people are gone. But
I mean, it's certainly possible. I tend to believe that if it's out there, it's more of like a primate that we just haven't discovered yet, and
I
they don't want us to discover them. So, but they're wise by that because we tend to kill things we discover. So, yeah,
truer words.
yeah,
But I mean, I for the longest time the Gigantopithecus like scenario was always my number one scenario for Bigfoot.
yeah.
That it was something left over from the Stone Age that it it moved away from humans because humans were killing it. Because
And that's really the most likely scenario, to be honest.
in my opinion, yes. In other people's opinions, no, it's not. I mean, in my opinion, it is. But I've had other people that have straight up said to me, "Nope, you're wrong," and I'm like, "Okay, if you really think that hard about it."
What one of the theories that I've been told for the reasoning of the government knows that there's a Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, but they don't want to come out and share that information because it would be endangered, and then we'd have to give so much space for the logging industry would lose out and that kind of stuff because it would need its habitat and that kind of stuff. So I guess that would be one of the reasons why the government would keep it on the down low from us.
I could think that. I mean, yeah, I definitely could agree with the government doing that, even. But because I mean, I've heard stories too of a guy shot a Bigfoot and he buried it because he thought he killed a human that was just disfigured or something,
Yeah,
and he went back to and some of his friends said the next day like, "You could prove something was real. Like, go get the body." I mean, the
yeah.
story takes place like 50 years ago, but and he goes to get the body and it's gone.
I've heard that in Skamania County, Washington, it's illegal to shoot or injure a Bigfoot unless it's in self-defense. So I don't know why they would make a law for a creature that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, well, exactly. I mean, it's on the endangered species list in some states. I've been told. I
That's
haven't looked
interesting. I
into
mean,
it, but I've been
yeah,
told. I mean, especially around you, I could believe it because that's where they're supposed to be heavily. I mean, and I mean, especially in Oregon and Washington, there's supposed to be a huge amount of Bigfoots, but I don't
yeah,
know. And the South too, of course, and I mean Northeast has a there's a forest 15 minutes on the road from me that supposedly has a Bigfoot or two in it, but I went hiking there for 2 miles the other day last week, and I didn't see nothing. I tried I tried some tree knocking with a big branch, and I didn't get no response. But it was also the early morning. Bigfoot
Yeah.
could have been sleeping in his cave and been like, "What the hell? Leave me alone."
Well, another
Like,
thing I've also read is that the people believe like the TV shows like Finding Bigfoot and that kind of stuff, or people who go out in the woods with cameras and do Bigfoot calls and knocks and that kind of stuff, actually chase them away, and that makes a lot of sense to be honest, because they'd be like,
it,
"Yeah, we see you. You're not a Bigfoot. What are you doing? We're out of here."
true. I mean, or the other theory I always heard is it's hunters, or I mean, it's other people looking for Bigfoot in the same woods that are knocking back at you because they think they hear a Bigfoot tree knocking. I mean,
Yeah, so I think the
so
best way to find one is to be in the woods and not be looking. You know?
yeah, true. I mean, that's honestly been the thing. I mean, you could also just be driving down the road around a wooded area and people have seen them like crossing the
Yeah.
road or walking alongside the road. It's
And I believe a lot of those are misidentification with bears and stuff because you're going, 40, 50 miles an hour and you see a brown creature on the side of the road and it stands up and you're like, oh, it's Bigfoot. But,
well,
you don't go back and look either. And even if you did, it would probably take off. So,
yeah. I mean, some of those though, I mean, if it's straight up crossing the road on 2 feet, it's no damn bear. They're not walking that far on 2 feet. Like,
probably not. I'm not a bear expert, but I can't imagine they would, especially if they were in a hurry to get across the street.
I
But
mean, yeah, because I don't know. It's just to me, it's all. It's just it has to exist. It has to. I can't say it doesn't exist. It may people
I,
make up a lot of stories. Yeah, possibly. But
I would need to have my own experience before I would believe. I don't not believe, but I need to have my own experience before I say yes or no on Bigfoot.
well, I mean, there are times that I've been in the woods and I just get a feeling like I'm being watched, and because I hate hiking personally, I freaking hate it. I hate camping. I hate hiking. My wife and kids love it, so I'm forced to do it
You're doing
basically.
it anyway, yeah.
But I mean, it's just, and I feel like I'm being watched though, or I feel like I hear something walking around me, but I can't see anything, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like you keep looking over your shoulder expecting to see something, but you never see anything. It's just the way it goes. So I don't know. I honestly don't.
It's
I
hard
mean,
with that with your brain, it's hard to go, am I sensing something or is my mind messing with me? Because that happens quite a bit. And that's one of the things that when I'm investigating, in like a supposed haunted location, that's something that's hard for us too, because especially when you're sitting in the dark looking for, talking to the wall, hoping to get an EVP response, um, your mind plays tricks on you. Oh, I saw a shadow over there or whatever, you all of a sudden you're sitting there and you feel like something entered the room or something's watching you. And it's hard to decipher whether or not that is actually happening or if it's your mind just playing tricks on you because you're actually looking for something like that.
yeah, I mean, see, I live in a haunted house, and my wife saw things when she was first up here with her father fixing things up. I didn't stay the night, so I didn't see or hear anything. But since we put a camera in the garage about a month ago or 2 months ago, I posted some videos to TikTok now and Facebook of these orbs in my garage.
Hmm.
At first, there was one, then it was two, which it's supposed to be according to the paranormal investigators who came to my house over a year ago. It's supposedly the couple who built this house originally. It's supposed to be them. They talked to them. I had one whisper in my ear, "Thank you," when I was talking about fixing up the house. But now I get a video the other day where it looked like someone blew bubbles in front of the camera in my garage, like all these orbs just floating up, like a mass of them. And I had a psychic say like maybe it was just a bunch of spirits passing through for some reason, and they just they don't stay, but they're just passing through the area.
It's interesting for us. We don't use orbs as a evidence of the paranormal because they can be easily explained as other things. So, it's just they could be insects, they could be dust, moisture in the air, issues with the camera and that kind of thing. It could be so many different things. For us, we just don't use orbs at all as evidence for
Well,
paranormal.
put it this way though, the only reason we even saw them is because the camera is motion censored,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, dust and that
it's
kind of thing will make those set off like that. It's because the IR on the light, because it's dark in there, will shine on the dust pick it up, and sometimes they'll set that
Mm.
off. And not saying it's not something, because I haven't seen the video and I'm not there, but for us, that's kind of how we deal with orbs, because it it can just be so many different things in paranormal. So for us, if we have a saying on my team, if in doubt, throw it out, because that's kind of what we do. We get a lot. It's very hard to get video evidence of ghosts, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Most of our evidence is audio, which is our best tool, I believe. We've gotten, I think, in the almost 6 years I've been on the team, we rarely get anything on video. We did get one, a really good one, at this place called the Walker Ames House in
I've
Port
heard of it.
Gamble, Washington. Yeah, in Port Gamble, Washington. We were investigating there, and I believe the report was that there's somebody seen in the walking through the hallway, that kind of stuff, and out of this certain little room to the left. So I put a camera in that room facing towards the door, and a team, part of our team was in there in that room, and then they left the room. You can see on the camera them leaving, and then they go to a different room, and then like a minute later you could see it's white, and it steps up in front of the door, and it's very hard to see, but it stops, and then you could see it take two more steps and walk out the door. It's really kind of creepy. And I've looked at that a million times trying to figure out a logical explanation for it, and I just haven't been able to find one.
Yeah, I mean it's weird because I know because the paranormal investigators came to our house. I know there's two spirits in our house, but it seemed like the wife disappeared for a while, or she just went quiet, like she just
Mm-hmm.
stayed hidden. But we used to have chickens, because we have chickens, but we used to have chickens in our garage in the back area. It's like a coop area. It was almost like built to
Yeah.
be a coop. They started dying mysteriously, and we had these guinea hens at the time too, West African guinea hens, and we thought they were killing the chickens, but we thought they were pushing them off the loft, and the chickens were somehow not flapping their wings, maybe from surprise or something, and they would die. And we'd find them on the ground, basically flattened.
Huh.
And we moved them out to the shed now, and since we've done that, not one chicken has died from unknown causes.
Huh. Interesting.
So, I mean, we got rid of the guinea hens too, but they were still dying once we got rid of the hens. So, I don't know what to think. I mean, and when the investigators were here, they kept picking up on the voice box. They kept picking up the word jungle, and they asked the spirits with the rods. What are they called? Not divining rods.
Dowsing rods. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They asked the spirits with those, "What does jungle mean? Are you referring to the chickens?" And they said, and they got a yes out of it. So,
Huh.
and I've had mediums in my show that have been able to remote feel my house, kind of, and they said they caught animals don't belong in the house. One of them did. They caught that from something in my house,
Yeah.
or I mean, well, farm animals, I guess. But then again, my dog was out in the garage for a little while too, and for a couple nights. And the one night, all of a sudden, she's yelping and screaming, and like she's being murdered. I mean, we never heard her yelp like that in our lives. So.
Yeah.
We run in there and let her out of the cage, and she runs into the freaking house faster than you ever seen her run. So we moved her to the basement that night, and no issues.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
another medium said that the original owner of the house had an antique car in the garage that he used to like to work on. So we think the garage may be his little sacred man space. And
Huh.
even after death, he still doesn't want any animals in there. He doesn't want anything out there to disrupt that.
Have you ever put like a digital recorder out there and try to talk to them about it?
I haven't, no, because I don't own. Well, when you say digital recorder, I mean, can you do the same thing with like a laptop or cell phone, or does it have to be like a special
I
digital
mean,
recorder?
you can. I don't recommend it, because with the cell phone, there's a lot of interference and stuff, just with phone calls and that kind of stuff. And I mean, it doesn't have to be anything expensive. You can just get a cheap digital recorder at Walmart or something.
Maybe
For us, we just keep it simple. We keep it very simple when we're investigating. So we don't have fancy, equipment really. We have cameras and audio equipment mostly, and we do have like trigger objects, that kind of stuff. We do the spirit box on occasion, but that's mostly for like if we have a client that says, "Hey, I saw the spirit box on TV. Do you have one?" Then we'll break it out, because not saying that they do or don't work. There's just no science behind it to prove it that they do work. So for us, it's not like now if we're using it and it comes up with a word or something that we pick up on EVP as well, it's something we can tell the client, okay, it came up with this name, and then we got the recording of this name as well. So that may be something there, but it's not usually something we would let stand on its own for evidence at all.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I just like the dowsing rods. I don't really like
Yeah.
put much faith behind those because the slightest movement of a person's hand could push it one way or the other. But
Yeah, and you also have to look at the integrity of the person doing it too. I mean, unless you know them, they may have an agenda. You know, for us, what we try to do is we try to find a way to make the client feel more safe in their space. So it's not ever going to. It's just not going to be a demon. People are not having demons in their houses. It's not something you're going to find very often. So, and for me, that's a religious thing, and I'm non-religious. So I don't really believe in demons, but I do believe that spirits can be evil or mean because people can be evil or mean. So when you pass on, why would that change, right?
makes sense.
So yeah. So most of the time, we'll find a logical reason. Like we had a couple that she was experiencing all sorts of things. She was hearing voices and she thought her ceiling was bleeding and that kind in her bedroom. And for whatever reason, that couple they didn't sleep in the same room, but they had recently moved into this house and was when she started having all these problems. So they called us to check it out. So what was going on was her bed was up against the garage wall. And on the other side of that wall, they had like a water softener thing, and the electrical from that was so giving up such a high EMF, it was going through the wall. It pegged out our meter even in her room by where her pillow was. So all night long she's sleeping and having EMF just going into her head. And if you're sensitive to that, it can cause you to feel sick, see things like that, hear voices. Also, if you're sensitive, it can cause some really harsh issues. So her house wasn't haunted at all. She just was being bombarded with EMF in her head all night long, every single night, which
See,
is
sometimes there's a logical solution to things, which
there's
uh,
mostly, yeah.
I mean, they did that when they did my house too. I mean,
Yeah.
I see. I trust these investigators who came to my house because they weren't charging me anything. It was done completely free of charge,
Yeah, that's how
and
we are too.
yeah, I mean, a lot of teams are like that from what I'm told. But
That's good.
and they went around the house first and got the electrical chart like reading throughout
Yeah,
the whole house to make sure that they had it baseline. I mean,
good.
they did things very professionally,
Good. Yeah.
and I mean it was an older woman, and it was the main guy who seemed to know what he was doing. So I mean, I kind of feel like they weren't out like I can't feel like they have an agenda because there was nothing for them to
That's
gain
good.
by telling us
Yeah.
the spirits in the house. Like they're
Yeah.
not selling tickets to our house to have people come see the
Right.
spirits or anything. So I mean,
Yeah, for some
and
reason some people like to scare people. I don't think that's a good plan.
plus I gotta find it, but because I this is all before I started my podcast, so I gotta find it and
Yeah.
post it. But
Right
there's a
on.
picture. They took a picture when I was talking in my son's room about fixing up the house because there was a radon issue in the house, and that's what killed the man. That's what killed the husband. After he was the last one to go, and the radons what killed him.
Oh wow.
After living in a house for 40, 50 years with radon, that's what killed him. But I was talking about fixing up the house and how I got rid of how we put a radon pump in to get rid of that issue, and that's when I heard in my right ear, very softly, "Thank you," like "Thank you," and like it was like I had chills down my back, like all my hair on my
I
back was
bet.
standing up on end, and like I was like, "Did anybody else just hear that?" And they're like, "No," and they quickly snapped some pictures of me by the door, and everybody, half people can see it, half people watch it can't see it, but I was standing like this, and it looks like underneath my where my arm is, you can see a face.
Oh wow.
And I mean, I got to find it and post it because I haven't posted it since I started my podcast. So I really should post it, but it's just I don't know. It kind of proved to me that there's something in the house. Plus, we
Yeah.
just hear. Plus, I mean, you get a creepy feeling in my house, or at least you used to before we put the dogs in the basement. Like if you would go in the garage at night, you feel like something's watching you from the basement.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, since we put the dogs in the basement, that's got away. Because I think he just stays in the garage now. But
He just wasn't a dog person. Who knows?
but my daughter's room is also always colder than every other room in the house.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it could be the windows in there are not the best seal or something, but we also, one of the questions they asked him with the dowsing rods was, "What are you here to watch the kids?" And one of them supposedly said yes because they never had kids.
Oh,
My neighbors are all their relatives, so
okay.
I the neighbors confirmed they never had kids, and so I mean maybe that's where the wife stays. She just stays in there to watch after my daughter because my daughter's 5 and was 4 when we moved in. So since she never had a kid, maybe she wanted a daughter always, and maybe it's her way of getting it now.
Yeah, just watching over that kind of thing. Yeah.
But before we wrap it up for the night, tell us about your podcast because I'm kind of dying to know what you guys do in your podcast.
Sure. Yeah. For me, I just have people on from all sorts of different paranormal topics. From I've had psychics. I've had recently. I had Joe Diamond, which was he's Coast to Coast named him America's greatest mind reader. I had him on. We do Bigfoot, UFO, just all sorts of other guests. It's called Hassling the Paranormal. I'm 11 episodes in, so I'm just getting freshly started at this. So
Oh, okay.
it's pretty new for me, and I'm having a lot of fun with it and getting some guests lined up, and hopefully I'll have some more episodes here pretty soon. It's for me, I just do audio because it's just easier for me to do audio than
Yeah,
video.
I started out that way, and then when I was originally on Zoom and setting up lives on Zoom was so annoying. So
Yeah,
I mean, I ended up just switching to StreamYard because everybody else I knew used it, and I switched to StreamYard, and it was just so much easier to do lives because it's literally you can link it to your Facebook, you can link it to any
yeah,
Facebook page or group. It's just or any other social site. It's just incredible. YouTube even, and it's just like makes life
yeah.
easier. Like right now, I'm streaming in 2 Facebook groups, well, 2 Facebook pages, and my YouTube channel, like
Oh,
all
right
at the
on.
same time. Like it's cool. Like it's a nice way to do things. But well,
Yeah.
where can they find your podcast, and where can people contact the Big River
Okay,
organization
so
if they
my
want help?
podcast is available on most major platforms: iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all those. You can find it on there. And as far as contacting my team, we're at bigriverparanormal.com, and we have a team in Boise as well, so you'll see their stuff as well. So you'll see Boise and Portland on there, and we have all sorts of evidence stuff on there you can go look at, and you can contact us for assistance if you're in the Idaho, Oregon, or Washington area, and we can.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. Go check out Hassling the Paranormal because I know my listeners love paranormal. So go check it out. It sounds like an interesting show. I'm gonna have to give it a few. I'm gonna have to give it a listen myself at some point. I don't
All
really
right.
listen to podcasts anymore, but I'll definitely have to give it a shot at some point. Um, Other than that, you can find all my listeners know you can find me on Facebook as Paranormal Normal / Maniacal Music Musings Podcast with an S group. You can find me on Facebook on I do that twice now. You can find me on Twitter and the Gram as at Juggalo Bastard. You can find me on TikTok as at Juggalo Bastard Podcast. And you can find me on YouTube where this is streaming as Paranormal New Normal. So, and be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and remember we are doing a fundraiser, a GoFundMe for one of our fellow podcasters, Vanessa Rain, who is having some housing issues. Please, if you can give. If you can't give, please share it out. And I want to thank my guest Jason for coming on. I'm glad we were able to work out the little bit of delay last week and get you back on so soon. It's
All
been
right, thanks for having me. Yeah.
my pleasure. And to all my listeners, have a good night. And I will see you guys tomorrow with another live. And for all my listeners, I'll see you in half a week. Other than that, have a good one, folks.